All right, let's get started. Let's talk about onboarding a team member. And we'll specifically talk about like the sales function. There's a couple of different functions within there, like we talked about. We've got that SDR person that's coming in. We've got a sales rep that could be coming in. We might be talking about leadership. But in every case, it is incredibly important to make sure that you're planning ahead for the onboarding process and not just having someone walking in the door and going, oh, what are we going to do with this person? It really does need to have some structure to it. You would be surprised at how much stock people put on the first day that they arrive at a company or they're part of a company. And some of the challenges that we're starting to face now with so many remote workers is that first day experience is a little bit different, right? It's so much easier when someone walks through the door to be like, to greet them and make them feel part of the company, and maybe have their desk set up really nice and have some swag on their desk and be like, "Whoa, you're part of the company," and have everybody meeting them and take them out to lunch the first day and things of that nature just to get them incorporated. And now it's like, hi on Zoom really quick, and we're getting you started down the process. So it is essential to try to figure out, how do we make this person quickly feel welcome as they come on board with us? And so some of the things we can do is try to put together a little care package that we send out remotely. So if someone is joining you and they're not going to be in the office, what I've seen be really successful is people put together a little swag care package with a note in it. And, they've got their logo, a t-shirt, a hat, a coffee mug, or something like that with your company and stuff on it. And they're sending this out with a personal note saying, welcome. I'm so excited to have you being part of the team. Can't wait to get you started here. And that can arrive a couple of days before their first day with you, right? And that's kind of replacing the walking in the door and greeting them and being excited to have them part of the company. You're doing that remotely, right? So I think there's creative ways you can come up with ways to get things into their hands. The other part of it too is on the negative side. I've had people come to their first day and their computer's not ready, or their manager is taking the day off the next 3 days and they're going to have to fend on their own, and the planning wasn't set up well. It's so much easier to say, you know what, we're going to start you a couple days late or a week later than we want it to, because we want to make sure that we start off on the right foot. Okay, so it's so much better to do that than to have someone rushed into the role because you feel like you need them now. And getting them now could start them off on a really bad foot, and then the progress seems to not go the way you want it to because their mindset is not the way you want it to be. Does that all make sense to everybody, right? So I would, people ask me all the time as they come in as a company that I work with or whatever, how fast can we get going? How fast can you onboard us? How fast? And I've always said, I'd much rather do things right than fast. And that follows through with onboarding your employees. It's much, much better to do it right than to try to do it fast, because everything you gain from doing it fast will go out the door faster than everything you gain from doing it right that will stick with that person throughout their time with you. Okay, so make sure the plan is in place and that this person is, you feel like you've got something built specifically for them. Okay. I usually, when I do a class like this, I've got a nice little template I walk through and provide to people, but let's just talk through some of those things. It is important to understand what is the plan for the first at least 3 weeks. Some people put together a little 30, 60, 90-day plan in a very generalized manner that says, here are your expectations in these windows. Okay, so one way to look at it is like I just said, 30, 60, 90 days, whoops, 90 days. All right. And so if you create a plan like that, the idea behind something like that is to say, let's just set some goals that seem really realistic for us when it comes to a 30-day window, then your 60-day window, and then your 90-day window, so that expectations are all right up front for somebody and they know exactly what you expect out of them. There are times that I have seen people get really heavily promoted as the thing that's going to save the company type of way of looking at it, right? Like you get really excited about a hire and you bring them in and you're like, this person is going to kill it for us. They're going to be so amazing. So everybody focus your attention on this rock star because they're going to save our company. And that turns into too vague of a overwhelming feeling for this new person, as opposed to saying, here's exactly what we expect out of you each window of time that is realistic and straightforward. That way the person's not like, what is this kind of superstar that I need to be, and never feeling like they're reaching that level of acceptance from everybody. Like, oh gosh, if I don't get out the gate really fast, everybody's going to think I'm a failure, and they have way too much pressure on them. Okay, so what I did is I typically give them 30, 60, 90 day and say, here are my expectations, very generalized, and then we break things down in this way. I do day 1 through 5, and then I do week 2 through 4. Okay, and when I build out a plan for them, I'm saying every hour of the day, what are we doing to make sure that you're onboarded successfully? And so I'm building out the activities into a document that I am sharing with this person and saying, this is what I expect out of you. This is how I am going to support you. This is the things that you need to do. This is what I'm going to do. Right? You know, even to the point where I'm saying on day 1, sit down at your desk, you get familiarized with your stuff, you know, log into all your systems, you know, then we're going to do lunch on this day. And then we're going to, so it's like building out the entire plan for them. But when I get to the second week, I don't care. I'm not going to go down to the level of everything in the day. I'm just going to say in the second week, we expect you to do these 3 things, these 4 things during the week. Okay. And we hope to end the week with this goal in mind, that we've reached this level of success, or we've reached this level of completeness with it. And then week 3 looks like this, and week 4 looks like this, and you should be in a really great place. And this is how we're going to connect moving forward from there. Okay. Some of the things that people don't think about during this first week is that they don't need to just know about their role and what they do in the company. They need to know about the rest of the company. So I think it's important during this time to be introducing them to other departments. And this is usually leaders. So I usually schedule a 30-minute meeting with the leaders of the different departments so that they can introduce themselves, the role of their department, what they do, who to go to for questions, why they may be needed, how they relate to the role that this person is going to be doing, right? So it's almost like I'm the person in charge of customer success, and everything that you're doing, you're going to be, it's going to flip. Bless you, everybody sneezing today. You know, but we're going to move all the way through to being able to say, okay, now they're a customer and we're going to transition to us, and this is what we do in that role. If ever they need additional services, we're going to be handing them back. We can answer questions like this. Great. All right. Now, marketing, this is what we do in marketing. This is how we interface with you. This is what we need from you. This is what you guys get from us. These are the people in the organization that can help you with the things that you need in those areas, right? So pretty simple meetings, but it's really beneficial, and it helps them really start to get connected with the rest of the organization, okay? Especially if they're remote, to be able to set up and say, welcome to the company. I'm the leader of this group. This is what we do, okay? And being connected that way, all right? So during this day 1 through 5, think about how we went through the entire sales playbook that we talked about through these different meetings. It's really important, kind of like the order of operations when you're training or onboarding somebody, coaching them in their role, to do things in a really solid order so that they kind of catch on well, okay? When it comes to that order, just think about the way we put things together in the playbook. The first thing we really talked about was our industry. Who are we going after? Who are the people? Who's the targets? What are their pains? What are their challenges? I didn't talk about my company first. I talked all about the challenges and the struggles, so that when I say, here's the product, they go, oh, that's why you did it. That's what you're doing to solve those problems. Oh, I get it now. Instead of reverse order and trying to go deep on your product first and then talking about the people, okay? So I usually spend a little time first day very focused on industry, the knowledge of the industry, the knowledge of the people. We dive into personas. We try to make sure they understand that very well. And by the way, the different roles in the organization need a different level of connection to some of these things. For example, I'm trying to find space here. Like the 2 sales functions that we're going to talk about is more like the SDR or the AE, okay? In the SDR function, they are not really doing any product demos. They don't need a deep dive into product. They need a high level. So they need industry, they need persona, they need message, and then they need a little bit of product, right? But on the AE side, this person is going to be doing a heck of a lot more focused product conversations, and they need to be able to navigate those objections and those challenges that people bring up during the process. So they need to be experts at the product, okay? So when we get down to this level, that product over here is going to be much bigger on their side. And there's much more time invested in that product knowledge on the AE side, but it's after this, okay? So when you think, just understanding the roles, you need to understand where they go through in their experience and what you're going to be teaching them. So day 1, first few days is very centered around, let's talk about benefits. Let's get your stuff all out of the way, right? Let's get your paperwork taken care of. And then let's dive into industry knowledge and all those pieces. And then we're going to slowly move into the why behind what we built and the product that we do offer. And we're going to get quickly into role playing and practicing the processes by which we expect you to communicate and do your role, okay? In an SDR function, by the end of the week, that person should be able to be on the phone. Like that person should be able to be taking all of the things you're teaching and be like, let's get on the phone. An SDR will not learn by just continuing to read and continuing to watch videos and things of that nature, okay? They're going to learn by doing. They're gonna learn by actually getting into the weeds and talking to the prospects and falling on their face, making mistakes. And you have to give them the grace and the ability to do that, okay? So the more they reserve and be like, I don't know, and the more you make it feel like you've got to be perfect before you get on the phone with people, the more they're going to be fearful of the calls. Okay. And if you say, hey, don't worry about it, let's just learn all this. And I feel good enough about you not making a fool out of yourself, but at least knowing some of this stuff, to jump on the phone. Okay. And some things you can do to mitigate that risk that you feel is going, let's take them a little outside of our normal ICP. Let's take them a little outside of that. Maybe let them call smaller folks and practice a little bit on that and then move up. Okay. So instead of calling the number one people we want to get a hold of, we're going to put them at a lower end, let them call a little bit, move them up quickly. Don't let them stay in that spot too long. Don't let that person stay there too long, because if it's not your ideal customer, they're not going to be very successful. And so their confidence will wane a little bit more, but let them just break through and start making the calls and feeling better about their activity. Okay. When I think about the coaching and the onboarding of an of an SDR, I say, the first 2 days, and this is day 1 through 2, maybe even 3. This is just the number of days they've been on the phone, not the number of days they've been employed with you. I would expect them to be on the phone within anywhere from the 3rd to the 5th day, depending on how easy it is to have the conversation. But once they jump on the phone, the first probably 2 to 3 days, we are going to only focus on activity. We are not going to focus on results of that activity. Okay? We need to be ensured that this person can do the work of making the calls as much as they possibly can. We set a minimum bar for them, a threshold to cross. And I don't want to, get on the first meeting of the morning and say, how did yesterday go? And we set a minimum of 60 calls and they made 59. What kind of effort does it take to make one more phone call to hit your goal? Come on, so you've got to start focusing only on the activity and say, let's see if, boom, I want to jump over that number, right? You want to see them doing that. Once they break that barrier on a consistent basis, which shouldn't be hard, that's why it's only the first few days, right? Then instead of focusing on activity, we spend the next 5 days, and we only focus on conversations. Okay, we focus on conversations, and what I mean by that is we talked about the process earlier in a couple of sessions ago, where we said, when you're going through this conversation, we're doing that triangulation approach, right? We're starting, and just to remind everybody, we had that decision maker that we're focused on. We don't get a hold of this decision maker. We move and we try to create a coach. And then during that conversation, that coach can turn into a champion, right? That champion will lead us back to the decision maker, okay? The only way we're going to be able to do that is to be able to navigate the phone trees and the gatekeepers and the conversations like that. We need to be able to get to department level people that will turn into our coaches and our champions, okay? And so I do see a lot of challenge there with SDRs in their role of just going straight to voicemail and being done. They make a phone call, they go to voicemail, they leave it, they hang up, and they're like, good, I'm done. I made my 60 calls, they were all voicemail. That's not going to be helpful. And so you need to coach them up and help them realize how to manage that triangulation approach that we're doing, okay? And so help them to understand moving and navigating through phone trees and reiterating that it's important to talk to a human. And I don't care who you talk to. I'm not worried about you talking to decision makers. I just need you to practice your conversation, practice your script, practice that discovery. This is all about practicing and learning. Okay, so encourage them to get past the voicemail and not leave voicemails initially and just keep doing the conversations. Okay. Once you feel comfortable with conversations, they are now ready to be judged on their outcomes of those conversations, right? And so for the remainder of the time, we're looking at our other metrics and we're saying, how many meetings are we getting from that, and how many are held? Okay, and so that's That's how we move through the first few weeks of onboarding and supporting and coaching that SDR for success. You should be, by the third and fourth week, there's meetings on that have been held now. We're starting to see the quality of those meetings, and we're like, okay, this is good. Everything's working well, and we move more into an encouragement and a support mode instead of the coach mode, right? We're just like, this is great, you're doing a really good job. If it's not, where do we focus our coaching? Okay, so that would be more like an SDR as they're going through the process of onboarding. Okay, when we look at an AE, it's a little bit bigger strategy conversation. And so when it comes to an AE's onboarding, we have to spend a little bit more time understanding that they can actually go through the entire conversation and do the work of demoing and moving somebody through a sales process. So that takes some time. Our sales processes are not going to be 3 days, you know? And so it's important to be able to say, when you bring an AE on, we do a lot of shadowing, okay? A lot of the initial several weeks of an AE's life is going to be shadowing the person who is currently doing that role, which in many cases, it's going to be you, right? So you're going to be the one that has a pipeline full of opportunities that you're managing through the process. You're going to be the one that's not comfortable yet letting them do a demo for a new prospect, right? And so they need to be the person that's the fly on the wall, seeing what a day in the life of looks like for them. And you have to be able to show them that process, right? And so show them what it looks like to manage somebody all the way through that by letting them be part of those meetings. And when they get done with the meeting, walking through what they need to do at the end of that and the why you did some of the things you did in those meetings. Yes, Ritu.
So does it make sense that if you are looking to hire multiple people to do all of them start together, so your time as a leader for 1 week, 2 week, 3 week is more focused on them, and then you can allocate certain time and help all of them? Or do you think one-on-one works better? And when I say one-on-one, it's not sitting one-on-one, but one person starting, bring them up to speed, get them rolling, and then the second person, and then the third person. What's your experience, Dan?
I like bringing on multiple people in cohorts, and let's work together because they have their peer to lean on a little bit too. And they're all going through a similar struggle and all trying to figure it out. And one person's going to step up and they're going to look to that person. And, you know, so there was a company that I've been working with recently, and I trained some of their salespeople, and they brought on somebody as an SDR. I only got limited amount of time with that person. And so that person wasn't ramping at the speed that they were hoping for. And they were like, I said, we've got another person you should hire from our group. This person is exact fit for what you need. Just bring that person on, and you're going to see an uplift in the other person almost immediately, because they're going to work together. They're going to collaborate. So anyway, the most that person did was 8 meetings before they hired the other person. When they hired the other person, which was at the end of September, she did 15 meetings in October on her first month. And it was like, oh, she did great. And I called the other person and I was like, where were you? 21. Like, he went from 8 to 21 just because he had a peer that he was like competing with and working together with almost. So to your point, I do like the cohort experience, right, where they're all trying to solve the same problem at the same time and working with each other, and as well as the fact that your time is a little bit more efficient because you're working with 2 at a time instead of one-on-one.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Wanted to confirm that I'm not missing something here.
Yeah. No. That's great. That's great. But I did want to focus on the fact that with an AE, yeah, we're still going to do some of those similar things because they have to prospect as well. So they're going to have to get on the phone and do the work. But what they're going to do is they're almost going to become like the SDR for you, so that they can see the experience and then they can start taking over the experience, right? So you kind of treat them as the AE in training, and like they're your senior SDR. So they come on, they learn what an SDR would learn, and they would start the function of the SDR and handing things off to you with the idea that those are going to be their leads, their pipeline, but you're going to help manage them through it. Okay. And in those week 2 and 3, they're really practicing their demo. They need to certify with you on how they do their demo, their knowledge of the product. So instead of just running at prospecting, half their day is going to be working on really understanding their territory and understanding your product and the mix of what things are going to potentially, like, you guys might be handing opportunities off to them and saying you're taking over. And so depending on how you want to bring this person on, it is a shadowing experience for at least 3 weeks. They are going to be needing to learn and develop, and you are going to have to feel like I need to role play with you, and you need to show me that you can do this, right? And so it starts with you doing it and them watching. Then it can turn to them doing it and you watching, and then it can be them doing it, period, and no need, right? So it's kind of this transitioning of you out of the picture, but you need to be fully in it on the front end, doing all the work so they can see, and you're basically modeling the behavior that you're looking for in that person. Okay? It's not something that's easily just read out of a book and they're like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do. They're going to get some of it through your guide and through the videos that you might share with them, but it's better to be sitting directly with you and experiencing it one-on-one. Yes, me too.
So it's a little off question. That's why I was hesitating a little.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of the business development people? They are more like AE, but not necessarily AE. So biz dev people are building a relationship with, let's say, at the district level or in big organization at the organizational level. I want to validate that what I'm thinking is correct or not. Would love to hear your thoughts. It's like they should be able to do the demos on their own because these are senior people actually, but they are not comped by the commission on the sale, so to speak, right? There may be some bonus tied to it. So biz dev is a very different story. It may or may not result into any sale, and even if it does, it's a much longer process. What do you think is the overlap between AE and biz dev?
Right. So I have always saw business development as SDR, prospector, person on the front end, and then AE is the person who takes it from there. Maybe you can explain more.
Yeah, this is different biz dev. Like SDR is literally cold calling, volume calling, whatever you are saying. But let's say biz dev is more like relationship building. It's very popular in corporate America. I think it's in same thing in K12 in education also. It's more like, let's say, McGraw-Hill. You're talking to McGraw-Hill for whatever reason, right? It's a relationship you are building over time. Or let's say it could lead to. Yeah.
Okay, so business development can also be considered like account manager role, where there's a lot of business as associated to that account, and you could have a little foothold in there, but now you need to get more business and more business and more business. So therefore, there's a larger relationship that you're going to be managing over time.
Correct. That's one type of biz dev, upselling and expanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So typically, in a lot of the companies that I work with, their product is their product, period. It's like you can sell, like, for example, like a power school. They will have account managers that are enterprise level account managers that say, I can help you with all the things we do. Right. And I'm going to support this relationship at the highest level and just work with you. And then I'll bring team members in that are experts in the different areas that we support. Right? That is more of a senior level sales position where the person has gone through the AE experience and now they're at the they're at the top portion of their career and they're managing bigger deals and more of what my dad would call schmoozing people, instead of actually like closing business. They are relationship oriented only. And so that's my picture of a business development person. I've also might be confused with it more when it's like channel sales and we're managing a group that sells for us. That's totally different.
That's different. Yeah. That's distributor, reseller, channel. Okay.
But when I think of what's being sold in either higher ed or K-12, those functions are really, everything can be incorporated into more of a prospecting level person or an AE that has potentially a little bit more responsibility than just closing new business, right?
Except if you're starting a brand new organization, you say, okay, let's tackle X. And you have no idea what is the process inside X for decision making. It's not a typical school. It's not a typical college, right? And then your SDR are low level people, and two, they are not going to have patience to dig through, understand that process, understand people in there, understand these are the 5 people I need to call, and then next day I need to move to the other 5 and the other 5, because the comp structure, you don't be surprised, you get what you measure, right? So SDRs are like, oh, I'm supposed to get these many meetings. I'm not going to waste my time on this organization X that I have no clarity on.
Yes. So typically the way that I set things up in an organization when it comes to the sales org itself, your SDR's function is around volume, like known quantities of opportunities. So we take them and we go, here, point, go. Bring me more deals that look all like these other deals. You drive volume. Then the AE's prospecting responsibility is on the unknown or on the people that are your highest value folks. And so we call them key accounts. And we say, you are responsible for bringing on or engaging in developing relationships with these top 25 companies. As an AE, this is your territory. Here's the top 25 that you're going to focus on this year. I need 4 of those to become customers this year. And you'll manage everything that the SDR throws at you as extra opportunities to work. And so when it comes to that, you're working on what they would call quarterly business reviews with your AE and saying, let's review the top 25. What have you done to try to get in there? What has your process been? Who are you connected with? And you map out the account with them and work on that. And that would be more of what you would consider your biz dev type of role, where they're engaging and really opening up the account more and trying to get that relationship really developed. But I still consider that the AE role. It's just a higher level feel to it. You can name it pretty much anything you'd like, where some people say national account executive, enterprise sales rep, regional sales leader, something to that effect, where they're just saying, this is your territory and you're responsible for bringing in these accounts that we care about the most in that territory. Doesn't mean that they're the biggest. It could be the most influential people that you want to bring in. Okay. And so managing an SDR, it's about brute force, go over here, attack, run, here's your process, follow that and do it. When it comes to an AE, it's like, I, as the person who knows what I want, I am going to model the behavior that I'm looking for, and I'm going to give you the things that you're responsible for. So it's all about shadowing a role and making sure that they understand the function completely and their responsibilities.
Okay.
So those roles take a little bit longer to develop somebody. That's why earlier I was saying it's really great to be able to bring in SDRs early, develop them in their role, promote them into the next level, because they already have a good feel from the experience that they had around working with you and handing leads off to you and the demos that you do and the things of that nature. It's like, oh, I kind of get that. and you can slow roll them up into an AE while they're still doing their SDR function. So it turns into a great, easy transition. When you hire an AE directly, it could take 6 months before you know whether or not this person is going to be successful. Because it takes a while to get them moving down the path and going, okay, if my sales cycle is going to be, let's call it 3 months, I got 3 months where I have no idea, are they going to be good or not, because they haven't closed anything yet as expected. Right? So.
Okay, thank you.
But shadowing is going to play a big role. You can also, from the shadowing, you can provide recordings, right? You can just say, here's a recording of the demo, right? You can give them recordings of phone calls, okay, and what you've done on the phone. You can give them videos of just all the different ways that you present in the slide decks that you're doing and things of that nature. But it's really about saying, the one-on-one shadowing is always going to be the best, because you're actually having them experiencing it with you and being able to sit down right after, and here's the why behind some of the things that I did. All of these kind of asynchronous things that you're providing them is like, okay, I got that, but I have a lot of questions and you haven't been able to sit down with them yet. So it's easier just to do the shadowing and then use these as supplements after the fact. Okay. So,
can you talk a little bit about the questions that you might, ask the AE after the shadowing meeting? Would you ask them if they, would have done some things differently? Would you ask them how it went? How do you make them more engaged as opposed to just being, sitting and watching?
Right. I like to talk to them before the meeting and say, this is what I want you to look for. These are the things I want you to see in this, okay? And so depending on what the meeting is, for example, if we're doing a demo, I want to be able to say, okay, we're going to be doing this demo with this company or this organization, right? And here's what the plan is, and I want you to see how we break this thing out. I want you to see how I start the conversation on the front end and get them back into a place of emotion. I want you to, we're going to be talking about the questions that I asked and the feelings that I had. So I want you to be able to almost put yourself in the shoes of the person that I'm talking to and start to feel what I'm creating there. Okay. Then when we get into the demo, I want you to look for the dialogue and not the monologue. I want you to see how I was able to create these moments of engagement through the process with them. Okay, so look for those things that I asked and those triggers that made me say, get them involved, right? So I want you to come back and tell me some of those things that you saw out of it, right? And then it's okay, now we're at the end. I expect to be able to wrap this thing up in a good way. And so I want you to look for that. I want you to listen for those things and how I wrap things up. And I expect that there's going to be some objections. Pay close attention to some of those things. All right. So on my end, it's usually more of a front end conversation, and then it sets the back up, the end of the meeting up really well, where you can just say, okay, let's talk about what we talked about ahead of time. And did you see some of those things? Did you pay attention in the right way?
Thank you. That's super helpful.
It just, like, to your point, it becomes purposeful listening instead of just kind of hanging out in the corner. You don't want the person who is going to be your AE like this, like, oh yeah. Oh, you wanted to, so it's like a purposeful listening and being able to listen for specific stuff. That's a great question. Okay. So we talked about onboarding, those two different roles, the different ways we go through it, the training and coaching that we do, right? The AE is going to be a little bit all over the board just because you have to incorporate your sales cycle into it and the time it takes to do some of those things. So if you know your numbers really well, this will be something you can outline very easily in your 30, 60, 90-day plan with them, where you can say the first 30 days is going to be about shadowing. During the next 60 days, we're going to be transitioning you into doing those roles. I expect by the end of the first 30 days that you're going to be certified on the demo, and you're going to know how to do that. So then I am, during the next 30 days, I'm going to be sitting in on those demos with you and listening, and helping to improve and polish up on the things. And then when we enter into the 90-day, I expect you to start taking over responsibility of all things, and we'll be diving into your pipeline. We're going to start making sure that you have pipe, and I'm expecting by the end of the 90 days, your pipeline will look like a normal pipeline that is 4 times what your quota is, and will be moving towards good opportunity closing, right? I'd love to be able to see that by the end of 90 days, that you have somebody in X stage in your pipeline ready to close, right? So things like that can be built out that are relatively, that just align with the way that your business should run and what success should look like for you in the right timeline. Okay? All right. Let's talk about managing these people, because now that we've got them, we don't want to lose them because we're not managing them effectively, right? Because we don't know what they need, right? And I want to talk about 3 different types of meetings and the ways that you use those meetings to support your sales team, okay? The first one is a stand-up meeting, okay? Stand up. Okay, this is very similar to like a scrum in a development shop, right? But the idea of a stand-up is to do this in a daily basis, okay? This is a daily engagement. The expectation is this is an incredibly short window of time, which is why we've referred to it as a stand-up. We don't have time to sit down in this meeting. We're just going to stand up, talk about a few things, and be done with it. The purpose of this one is to make sure that everybody is starting their day off on the right foot with a plan, and you know exactly what's going on. And you do this in a very easy way. There's only 3 questions we're asking, okay? We want to know about yesterday. Okay? We want to know about today. And we want to know about help. Help required. Okay? So the yesterday conversation is basically saying, did you do what you said you were going to do yesterday? Did you meet your goals? Did you accomplish what you were wanting to accomplish? Okay, this is a group setting, by the way. So if you just have one, it's a group of you and then one person, but it really is, it's an accountability session where this person needs to know that every single day they're going to start their day by doing a call out and telling you, did I do what I said I was going to do the day before? Okay. And so in the today section, we're saying, what's the plan? What's the plan for today? And everybody should have a very specific plan, not just like, well, today's going to be a big calling day. Got a lot of calls to do. Thinking about making some calls. Like if you get that, it's like, okay, put on the brakes and let's dive into what the heck are we going to do? The expectation should be more of the territory I'm focused on today is going to be in Texas. I've got 65 calls lined up. I'd like to get to 70. So I'm adding 5 this morning to it to make sure that I've got enough for today. I've got 2 blocks of time that I'm broke up today to make those calls, and I expect to be doing some follow-up in between those. So that's my plan for the day. And it's like, okay, you're exceeding the goal of number of calls in the day. You have a specific group of contacts that you're going after. You have a plan for that. Good. Next person, right? And then the next day we're going, hey, you said you were going to make 70 calls yesterday in Texas. How'd that go? And if that person is like, well, not so good. I only got to 30 calls, and I'm like, oh, okay, so what happened? How can I help you? What obstacles got in the way of you being able to accomplish what you're doing? Right? And what can we do to remove those obstacles so that doesn't happen in the future? Okay. That's what a stand-up is meant to accomplish. And the last thing we ask of the group, is there anybody that needs help, any support that I can provide? Your team should know that every day at 8:30 in the morning, that you're always going to be available to help them with any questions that they have, any support that they need, anything. And it makes your day easy because you just hit them once. Let's go. Now go after it. Go get it. Right? The other good thing about doing this first thing in the morning is the fact that we're starting the day off strong. I've had people that don't implement a scrum or a stand-up or something to that effect, and their folks, if they're remote or in person, it really didn't matter. It was more like they got up and they went and got some coffee and they talked to their friends in the breakout room, or they did whatever they need. And then by 9 o'clock, they were like, all right, I got to get this going. They started building their list out. And by 10 o'clock, they're like, whoo, I did a lot of work. I need to go take a break. And they haven't started anything yet. And so if you sit down with them and go, what's the plan at 8:30? Well, they've probably spent some time already building that and getting ready for this call with you. And they're ready to go. And it's like, let's go, go, go. And so it's a great way to just get your day started off every day in a good way, knowing that your team is set up for success and that you were there to help them when they weren't. Right? And you deployed the resources that were needed, like they didn't have a solid list to go after, or something happened with their logins or whatever. You're like, these people are going to help you. We've got this set up, all done, ready to go. This meeting should take less than 15 minutes. I had a team of like 22 people, salespeople and SDRs, and it took somewhere between 15 and 18 minutes to go through the entire meeting. It was just like plan. The first meeting took 35 minutes because I was like, that's not a plan. Come on, let's talk through this. And then everybody's like, oh, okay, we got to come with a plan that's really specific. And when they showed up the next time, it was like bang, bang, bang. We got through everything. Everybody knew exactly what they were going to do. And when the few people showed up and said I didn't do what I needed to do, there was a longer conversation, and nobody wanted to have that conversation with me. So everybody got their stuff done. So that it feels like this is such a great way to manage a group of people that are in that execution mode every day with you. Okay? Start off on a good foot. Put your mind at ease that everybody's in a good place and ready to go, and that there's nothing holding them back. If you do that at the end of the day, they're like, well, I couldn't make any calls today because it's like, oh my God, if we would have started that in the morning, I would have been able to fix that problem for you. You know? So let's get them set off on the right foot. That's the first meeting that we want to have. We want to get that scheduled every single day and do it early. Okay? The other thing that they need some level of personal connection with you, one-on-one session. That's a weekly thing. All right? We do one-on-ones on a weekly basis with our team. Now, again, the size of team matters. The more intimate you guys are as far as team size and the way that you interact with each other, this might not be necessary. Because you might have one person, it's the only person you're focused on. You meet with them every day about things. You guys talk on a regular basis. You know their family. You know everything about them. It's not like we don't have to schedule a one-on-one weekly formalized, right? But the bigger your team gets, the more important it is to make sure you're reserving time for them. And we need to be focused not only on business in this meeting, we absolutely need to be focused on personal. Okay, we need to get to know these people. Okay, it has been my experience that the more I understood the person and the things they're going through in their life at home, activities that they're doing outside of the work, the more I know how to motivate, support, help them. And when they're struggling in other areas of their life that is not business, and you're there to be a shoulder or somebody to support them or give them advice in those areas, they will run through brick walls for you. They will do their job at a higher level because they know you care about them more than a number, that you care about them more than just their output for you. I had a guy that was struggling at home, and I was like, you just need to take some time, man. Like, you need to focus on your family for a minute, get that resolved, and stop worrying about business for a minute and come back refreshed. Take the next couple of days off, come back on Monday. And what that person performed at the highest level he ever did that month, because he was like, wow, thank you, I needed that, was rejuvenated and went back and killed it. Okay. Again, it's better to do things right than to have them like, you know, no, I'm sorry, we can't give you any time off. You need to work 8 hours a day, every day. I don't care what's going on in your life. That's a problem. You need to be able to care about them and support them in both areas. Okay. When we're talking about the business side in the one-on-ones, I expect my team members to bring to me, at least send me 24 hours ahead of time, their agenda for this meeting. I tell them this is their meeting, they own it. This is my time to support them, and I need them to own it. And so I expect 24 hours in advance. 24 hours in advance, I need their agenda. That doesn't mean I don't bring my own, because there's definitely some things I want to talk to them about, but I'm going to attend to their needs first on the things that they care about and they feel are the most important things that they want to talk about to get their job in a better place or get their performance in a better place. Okay. You'll learn a lot about people when they do that and send this information to you. And when you require this of them before you will meet with them, they put a lot of thought into saying, this is what I absolutely need. Okay. Don't skimp on this. If they don't show up with, if they don't send you an agenda, I would be sending them a quick email saying, do we need to cancel our one-on-one? I didn't see an agenda. You know, if I don't get the agenda, I don't feel like I need to meet with you. It doesn't sound like there's anything you need from me. Okay. This is also the only place that we talk about negative things. Okay. In our stand-up, we address problems in a supportive way. And we say, how can I help you? And what did you run into? And what can we do better? And we talk about it in the group setting in more of this supportive environment. But in the one-on-ones, that is the only time we're going to be talking about performance problems and behavior issues and things of that nature. We don't talk about that out in the open with people. We don't talk about it in group settings. We bring it up behind closed doors in a one-on-one meeting, only between the two of you. Okay. So if someone is not at the level that they need to, we do that in our one-on-one meeting, and we talk about, hey, we're not meeting our goals. What do we need to do to make change? If we're not going to see change, then we're going to have to show you the door. Things of that nature have to be part of this one-on-one conversation. Okay. Yes, Ritu.
So, and this does get very tricky sometimes. Do you put a time limit on how much we are going to have, let's say on a weekly one-on-one? Because the reason I'm asking is I had a guy one time very, very early on our first hire, literally 2.5 to 3 hours will just go on and on and on and on and on. And it will not end, no matter how much I try to say, okay, we can do this. But it's just, how do you manage that? Like, even though on calendar, of course, you had all the tools in place, and I usually do one-on-one day later in the day. So they are done with their calling, I'm done with my major projects, and you can truly focus and talk on personal growth and behavior. So
that's a disrespect of time. And you need to establish that boundary. You need to be able to say that this isn't a 1 hour meeting at most. This is what we plan to accomplish during this meeting. If things are going over the time, then we're going to have to reschedule for another time to continue the conversation. But I'm going to try to get to the highest priority stuff, and you're going to be the one that brings that priority stuff to me. There are going to be some things sometimes that I want to talk about that may take precedence over that, but this is typically your meeting and it lasts 1 hour. If at some point we don't need the full hour, that's fine. We can end it early, but we always need to be ending this within the hour. So let's make good use of the time that we have here and make sure we're focused on the priority items. Okay. So you just need to set that precedence and set that boundary early. If you ever find someone starting to abuse that, that is something where you just need to be like foot down. This is a problem, and we cannot continue to go on and on and on about these things. I have got so many other responsibilities as well. And so if you need more time with me, schedule it with me, but I have an hour, and that's what we're going to spend the time on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it can get tough. And, you know, even the content of these conversations can get tough too. If you go down a path where you feel like you're going to need to have a difficult conversation, you may bring in someone else with you to support the conversation or be witness of the conversation too. You know, so, but really the idea is to say, this is an opportunity to support and continue to develop this person, not only on the business side, but on the personal side. And most of the time, these conversations should be nice, pleasant conversations, all about growth, development, and support. Okay.
Right. Agreed. I mean, in this case, of course, we parted ways after, you know, a few months. Clearly, it was not a good fit. But now when I look back, it's like, I was such an idiot. I should have put a stop to that. And it was not just weekly. Everyone, can we talk for a few minutes? And then.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself in that problem too. I just want to be nice. I just want to help people. I just want to make, you know, give people time. And then it was like, they're taking advantage of you. They're taking advantage of that, and it's causing you not to be able to do the things that are priority for you too. So you gotta put yourself up there on the scale as well, as opposed to putting everybody else first.
Because
So,
I also feel like as a leader, my job is to make their job easier. I tell my team, I don't do anything. I just report what you do to the world. That's all I do. Right? My job is to enable them to do
yes,
what they want to do or what they need to do, what their charter is. So,
right.
yeah.
You do a lot more than that, but that is a big part of your job. That is a big part of your job, but they need to be able to see the model of that behavior in you too, as the leader. The culture of the company starts with you,
Right.
you know, and it ends with you. It doesn't matter who you bring into the organization, the culture will follow the leader, period. And so if you don't respect your time, they won't respect their time. If you don't put some of those barriers in place, they won't do those things. And so the behavior that you present to them, however it might affect them initially, it will turn into, wow, this is how I have to be running my business too. And so however you want it to be, you model that behavior in order for you to see that in them. Okay? Respect your time, they'll respect it as well.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So that's the weekly. In this with an SDR, we're very focused on just making sure they're maintaining and doing the right thing each week and executing on it. On the AE side, sometimes these one-on-ones can just be once a month. Okay. At the beginning of a month, the first weekly meeting that you have with an SDR at the beginning of a month is about talking about the goal for that month and the previous month. You know, how do you think you did last month? Looks like you met your quota. You're a little bit over it. That's exciting. Let's map that out on your compensation plan and see how you're doing for your year goals that you said you wanted to make. Now, what's the plan for this month? Looks like you're set up for another good month. And things like that. That's what we're talking about with the SDR. And then in between that, it really is just like doing good, doing bad. How can we help you? Here's where our numbers are. Are we doing what we need to do? Are you running into any problems internally, any problems externally? Glad I can help you. Done. When we're talking to an AE, when we get to that first meeting of the month, it is a pipeline review. Okay, it is basically saying, all right, let's take a look what you have in the pipeline. We want to remember that it's kind of 4 times what we need for quota. And so what you have marked for close this month looks like X. It's either good or bad. Let's walk through some of these. Let's make sure we understand what's going on with the opportunities and where I could support you, right? It's getting a plan together so you can forecast your business a little bit better each and every month. Okay. It's the same thing elsewise, all the other stuff is the same, where you're making sure that 24 hours ahead that they're giving you an agenda. You're talking about personal and business. You're making sure that you understand these people a little bit better and the problems that they have across the board. Okay, challenges, experiences, things of that nature.
Just a question on business and personal. Is there a particular order you'd recommend between both, or?
I don't know if it matters too much. I have always done personal before business. You know, I always have been like, how are you personally when we get into the meetings, and make sure I get their mind wrapped in a good place. And then we talk about business. But I don't know how important that is. It might be like, hey, they might walk in the door with an urgency towards some business issues. And you just got to focus on getting the business stuff taken care of. And you go, now that that's out of the way and you can relax, that we're on top of those things for you. How are you doing? You know, what's going on in your world? And you end the meeting in a really great way. So I don't know. I would say that I don't have a huge preference on it. But
Okay, thanks.
I don't know if that was too helpful, but do it any way you'd like. But that's basically our one-on-one meetings, okay? Remember, that's the place where we talk about anything that might be considered confrontational or bad or a negative conversation, okay? All right, the only other one we want to talk about that I want to talk about is more around the team meetings, okay? Right now, at the stage that you're in, these team meetings should be more considered like a monthly conversation, okay? And a team meeting is more about, not about talking and having them give you information about their business or what's going on with them. This is the opportunity to provide information and support to them. These team meetings are more like, let's get marketing in one of these meetings and talk about the upcoming campaigns that are going on and how they're supporting the sales team and what they might be doing there, right? Let's get the CEO in the meeting and talking about it. Like, the bigger you get, the more they get disconnected from leadership, and let's get them in talking about some stuff. Let's use this team meeting as a way to grow and develop the team. And so what I've done in the past in a real successful way is I assign a member of the team a project that they will be presenting in the team meeting that is all about growth, development, and coaching. For example, I will say, okay, you know, Sam, you're in charge of the project for this next upcoming meeting that we're doing for the team meeting. I want you to present on a topic around objection handling. Okay, so, you know, bring the ideas that you've had and things that you've had success with, and I want you to teach the team on objection handling and share. And so now this gives that person a little bit of work to do outside of their normal job, and they're researching and putting something together, and then they're going to present in front of the team. And it's like, gosh, I think it motivates them. It gets them excited about being able to present some of their level of experience and expertise, and everybody benefits from it. And then we go, okay, who's up next? And okay, it's Sally now. Sally, what are you going to be presenting on? And you might even put a calendar together and let everybody know who's coming in the next one, so they can plan their own idea of what they're going to present on or share with the team. Okay. This is about talking about overall goals of the previous month and what we did and what we accomplished and what our plan is coming up. It's our opportunity to share company plans or different things that are happening within the organization. This is where we do that. Okay. You're going to, on the quarters, you know, at the end of quarters, beginning of quarters, these meetings might be a little bit bigger, and the conversation might be a little bit bigger around the goals that you've met and the things that we're launching and product changes that are happening and things of that nature. But think of the team meeting as a push. I'm providing all this support, giving this information, pushing down information to them, and then the stand-ups as the pull. I need information from them. I need them to share with me, give me details, make sure that they're running in the right direction. Okay. This one is all about you sharing. All make sense? Thoughts, questions?
Just one question on the duration, the recommended duration of the monthly meeting.
This one is usually an hour long. It's usually an hour long. Like I said, the stand-up should be less than 15 minutes, especially with you guys on this one. Your one-on-ones may be able to be whittled down to 30 minutes in many cases, because they can be really quick and easy and just a few little things that they wanted to talk about. You may have occasion where they bump up at the beginning of the months to make sure you're covering pipeline fully and all of those things. But usually these are a consistent hour-long meeting that sometimes goes over because of all the things that you need to talk about and share. Okay. Again, one of the big things that the reason why I'm sharing all these different things is because I expect that things are going to grow and you will need these in place. The requirement of them being in place early stage is not totally that big of a deal, right? Because everybody's in the same room sometimes, you know. Everybody is on the same page daily. There's lots of conversation. It's your first sales rep, it's your first SDR. There's so much communication already. It's not that big of a deal. Like, you know, I would just, if you're over communicating all the time, this is not a big deal. But the bigger the company grows and the more people that are part of this and the more your tension gets into other places, the more they need these things in place. Right? Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions on any of that? Okay. All right. Well, I was telling you guys this one was going to be relatively fast, and I was not kidding. It was pretty fast. That got through most of the content that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So we still have 45 minutes on the calendar, at least on the time. So if you do want to stick around and talk about anything, I have nothing on the calendar but this. And so if there were topics that you wanted to share with it or learn something about, I'm happy to talk about anything else that you have on your plate. If you're running into challenges with your business right now and want to and are comfortable sharing with the team here or sharing with the group, happy to talk through those and see what I can do to help. Otherwise, okay. All right. We just planned a lot of time for this one, and I didn't have too much more content for you. It's pretty straightforward conversation, and I usually don't have a lot of questions in this category, so it usually ends pretty quick.
Dan, I have one question.
Sure.
It's more about role of SDR and AE. So SDR is very clear, 50, 60, 70 calls, whatever that is, every day, getting the demos.
Yep.
AE, do AE make calls as well?
Do AEs make calls as well? Yes, absolutely. They should have a quota for their calls as well, meaning they should have a goal for their calls as well.
Okay, tell me more about that. What does that role look like?
That's usually a smaller number, but it's like we have to understand the role and what you're expecting out of them first. It's usually something like 25 calls in a day or something to that. But they have to, you should be talking about the requirement of making a sacred time in their day every day for prospecting, period. Whatever that is, whatever you would consider time for prospecting, it's like an AE should be spending at least an hour a day, every day, making sure that they are prospecting and trying to find new opportunities to put into their pipeline every day, without fail, without question. I don't want to get all these excuses about, but the prospects needed a demo. It's like, yeah, you can demo them today or tomorrow or the next day, but you need to make sure that you always have an hour on your calendar. It's okay to move the hour to another time of the day to accommodate somebody, but you always have to have an hour of prospecting. And some of that's going to be, I'm going to email like crazy today and make sure I'm doing my outreach. or I am going to be making a bunch of phone calls today and executing on that. But on average, across the week, they should average about 20 to 25 calls a day. Doesn't mean they do 20 calls every day, but they should average that across the week.
So let's say you have a brand new AE and brand new SDR coming in. So SDR is let's just call it junior level role. You give them the list. They may fix some of that list, but mostly making calls, getting the demos.
Yep.
AE, day one, there is no demo on their calendar. So they're making calls. So the big difference between SDR and AE is partial SDR plus demos and account management.
Yeah, you treat them just like an SDR when they walk in the door, right? You have nothing else on your calendar but filling the pipeline. And then demos start filling up and they go, okay, I've got 3 demos today. Totally fine. Make 20 calls, but get those demos in too, right? Do your demos, make sure you're scheduling that time. So there's going to be a time where it goes flipping from SDR to AE.
Right.
But treat them just like an SDR when they walk in the door. You're a prospector right now because you have nothing else to do.
Right. Okay. That
Right?
makes sense. It's not like, because one of the experience we are seeing when candidates walk in, they think, oh, I'm AE. I'm not making volume calls. I'm not doing prospecting. I'm just managing the accounts and customers. Well, there's no one to manage yet.
Yeah. You need to, when you are interviewing them, make it very clear that they are starting from nothing. Okay. It is, I am not handing you a book of business. I am not giving you a list of opportunities that you're going to start working right off the bat. You will be coming in this door to build your book of business. And so that takes effort on the front end. I need you committed to making the calls, doing the work to build your pipeline. Now, eventually, you're going to be in a role where someone's going to be supporting your pipeline and bringing those opportunities in, and you'll do much less prospecting. But prospecting is never going to go away. It will always be part of your business. It'll always be part of what you do. Just doesn't mean it's going to be the main function of your role. I need you in a role to close business. And it would be amazing if you never had to prospect, because our SDRs are doing a great job. But you'll be responsible for some key accounts to make sure that you're always attempting to get in no matter what. And when your pipeline isn't full enough, you're prospecting. You're not waiting on your SDR to give you more pipeline.
So when we are initially starting to build the team, and in the previous sessions, we have talked about starting with SDRs and then promoting them to AE. That makes sense. But what if you have an AE who is working with you because they are more motivated? That's probably a whole another discussion in itself, because when they are coming in and your sales cycle is, let's say, 3 months, they are not going to be very happy. Not that they have any choice, but they came in, they are starting with prospecting, building calls, building book of business. There's no commission of 50% coming in, which is like, let's say 10% of your revenue in first 3 months.
Yes.
Right?
Happiness comes from an alignment of expectations, right? If expectations are not aligned, they will not be happy. If expectations are aligned and agreed on, they should be happy. So if they walk in the door with the understanding it takes 3 months to close a deal at minimum, and you will be spending the first 3 months working to build your pipeline in order to close that deal. So the first calls that you make will lead to your closes 3 months from now, and that's what your expectation should be. And they experience that, then they're going to be happy. If they come in and you say, I expect you to be closing business, right off the bat, and they have to prospect for 3 months before they close anything, they're going to be sad. More frustrated and angry than sad, but if you tell them this is your world and this is what you can expect, and when they come to experience it, it is exactly what they were told, why would they be frustrated or angry? It is what they walked in expecting to do and needing to do, right? We talked about this the other day, desperation, and interviewing desperate candidates that are just like, I need a job, I need to get out of this one, I'll tell you anything you want to know. And they tend to not listen to the expectations fully. They're just like, whatever you need. And they kind of just like, okay, I got a job now. Oh crap, what did I get into? And they become that. And so you do have to really make sure during the interview process that you're not dealing with somebody that is like desperate to get out of the role that they're in. If you are interviewing somebody and they're going, I just need to get out of here. The management is horrible. They don't listen to people. And they just complain about the role that they're in. It's like, I don't know if I want that person as someone who comes in here, because they're just gonna create the past in the future, and they're gonna create reasons to be upset and frustrated. What you want to be able to do is have somebody saying, I'm pretty happy where I am right now, but I'm open to looking. I'm open to understanding what might be out there and seeing what is available. If there's something that I feel like would be better, then I would be open to moving to your company. And that's like, ooh, okay, that's the person I'm looking for. The passive hires, the passively looking people. I'm happy where I'm at right now. I'm good. I don't have anything bad to say about it, but always looking for something better. I'm always looking to grow. And be in a better place. So if you're looking for an AE, that is the kind of experience that you want. I would be calling on current SDRs that are looking to be promoted into an AE role. That's kind of the level that would be really nice to be able to say, hey, I've been prospecting on the people that you are attempting to call on today, and I would love to become an AE now. I've been doing it for 1.5 years. I know this stuff really well. My company doesn't have availability for those next level roles yet. And so I'm just kind of open to looking at other places.
Yeah, because one of the thing I had a lot was pressure on me versus it was the reverse, which was very weird that, oh, they're not closing, they're not getting commission. Oh my God, they're going to be unhappy. So I was feeling so much pressure because they were like, oh,
it's not working.
It's not working. You didn't do a good demo, that it's not closing, because, it was strange.
You sold me a bill of goods. No, it's, and I do feel like when you hire from the bottom up and you grow really solid people in your organization, you get a chance to promote really good quality people that know exactly what they're expected of them and have learned about the company, the customers, the product, all the things, and become really solid AEs for you. When you bring in baggage from other companies that you don't know how they were trained, you don't know how they were raised in the process, you don't understand the problems that they've had with other people in the process that they go through, it does tend to be a little bit more difficult to get them into the culture and the feel and the approach that you want. It's not impossible. People do it all the time. But when you're small and you're trying to grow, it's like, that's a lot of energy for a founder who's got 10 other hats to wear to try to make this person fit the mold that they need. I would much rather. So our training program, the people that fail the most in the training program are the people that come with past experience in sales, especially retail sales. But they come in and they're like, I know it all. And you're trying to like beat them into the mold. But when people come in with an open mind and say, I'm really interested in getting into sales, they're like, oh, that's how you do it? Okay. And they just do it. And they're excited to do it. They're like, yay. And they just are like, I made a call, I'm excited. And that's when you bring in an SDR like that, that's a totally different feel for you, because you got somebody who's like, I'm ready to prove myself. I'm excited about this. I'm talking to someone who's the founder of the company. This is amazing. And they're teaching me how to do this. This is great. And so they have a totally different feel to their head. And so much less energy that is wasted on you trying to change that, right? And so they get in and they see success, and you're just like, you're amazing, and they're like, I know. And then they become these great AEs for you in the future, because they're committed to the person that helped them become successful.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I have a question on progress and SDRs ramping up. We talked about like the first 60, 90 days. What about like in the medium term? Is it a fair expectation that their growth and progress should be linear, or is it more of like a plateau type? And maybe there's no rule. But yeah, I'd like to kind of understand if like how can you continue to like nurture and unlock more of their skills and competencies, as opposed to being like, okay, like they're in a fair spot, I'll give them some slack. And
So if you're talking about the SDR role itself,
Mhm.
yeah, I think what I typically see, so I'll use the plateaus and the mountains and the growth side of it, but the typical SDR functions in that role anywhere from 12 to 18 months, okay, before they feel like they're ready for some level of growth beyond that, okay? And so when it comes to the first couple of months, you're going to see somebody start to grow like this, and they'll really start to take off. But they're going to get to this stage in there where it just feels like they're growing like this, right? Because you can only do so much with so much time and so much energy towards it. They're going to reach that level, and hopefully that level is like, this is success, right? And they've crossed the threshold and they're maintaining a high level of success, and you're just happy with them for a little while, right? But when we're getting to that 9-month, 10-month time frame, there's this opportunity for you to be like, okay, you're doing really good. It's time to grow you a little bit more, and we need to move you up into an AE role potentially, if that's available, if that's the next thing for them, right? And that's where you start to see the growth again go up like that, and they start to do something more like this, okay? The way that I do that is that when they get to that success plateau and you've seen consistency over a 3-month period, like their success, things are going well, I try to start putting extra projects on their hands, like where I say, okay, well, you know what? You should go to one of the demos that you set up and listen to me do the demo. And I want you to listen to some, and we start training them a little bit more in the demo and say, I want to understand in my one-on-one, I'm going, what's the career path look like for you? What are you getting excited about? You really loving the process and interested in maybe potentially being more like a campaign manager or writing out scripting or things of that nature? Or are you really excited about the sales role? You love closing on meetings and things like that. And what's the ambition that you have? And when you start to understand that, you can start giving them projects that align with the growth that'll lead them to that role, right? So if they want to be an AE, they're sitting in on demos, they're kind of learning that a little bit more. They're sitting down with you and doing a demo and sharing with you how they would present, things of that nature, right? You give them a mock client and say, do a demo. Here's the criteria. This is what the call came from the SDR was, and I want you to do a demo, and I'm going to role play that with you and see how you do. If they want to be in marketing, you start talking to them about like, well, you know what? I want you to write our next campaign. Can you write out a series of emails that you think are going to be successful for this, and kind of put those together? Why don't you sit down with me and we'll talk about the next group of people we should go after? Why don't you research the territories a little bit and tell me where we need to be targeting ourselves a little bit, and working down that path, right? If they say, you know what, I want to lead the BDR team or the SDR team, okay, I'm going to start giving them projects where they're doing more of the training and development, and seeing what I can do to help them potentially start getting lifted up into the minds of the people as the person who knows what they're talking about and can help them. Hey, we've got a new SDR that's coming on. Can you shadow with that person and work with them? You take over the onboarding of them, and be their mentor for this time frame. Those are the things where you see that, things are going like this, and it's like, okay, now we're going to start taking off and grow to the next level of what we expect out of this person. Is that helpful?
That's helpful, thank you. Have you seen cases where like the results are really erratic? Like 1 month is excellent and then the next one is terrible, and like what to do with those type of performances?
That's exactly why I said you need consistency in your success. You can't just have one good month, because oftentimes you see some of that stuff happen. And you really got to try to figure out how to get to the bottom of some of it. It's where, did they have a huge month because you guys went to conferences that month and they just followed up on conference leads and that's what got them that level? If you remove the conference leads, does it kind of equal out to the success they had the previous month? So we start looking at some of the data behind and trying to get the why behind it. You are going to have seasonality things that play a role in it where, oops, it was spring break and we had a bad month. Nobody was in the office. We couldn't get a hold of anybody. And that's just normal ups and downs, normal flow of how things happen. But when there's an inconsistent performer, the majority of the time, if you don't see any kind of insight into data behind the lead quality or the people they were calling, or did they jump into a new territory and we didn't have any of that stuff, you're gonna run into personal problems and you're gonna have to dive deeper into the human themselves, like what's going on in your life, because something has affected their ability to perform, and they're not focused. So that's what I've run into.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is our last one. This is our last session. So it has
I
been.
have more questions if we have more time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
I'm going to say thank you and step away, Dan. I really, really, really appreciate all of your work.
No problem.
I think
there's going to be a little survey that's going to be sent out too. So I'd love to get feedback on, the thoughts. I know you guys have already shared your appreciation. I thank you very much. I'm glad I was able to help out. It was wonderful to see all the same faces coming through and being able to support. So I'd love to hear your kind of feedback from the surveys that we send. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. I have to go too. I have 10 meetings today. Oh,
Good luck.
Good luck.
bye.
Bye-bye. All right. You have some more questions?
Yeah, I have two more questions. One of them was about renewals, and how to handle these. Like you've sold, you're 6 to 9 months after you sold, hopefully someone nurtured that relationship, and how to work on the renewal on the one hand, and then also another question on referrals. How can you leverage existing clients in an effective way, so that they, hopefully sell your product or help you sell your product to their peers?
Yeah, can you give me some insight into your, do you sell a 1-year deal? Do you sell what's the? We're
a yearly subscription, but for schools it doesn't auto renew, so we have to call them back and see how they're doing and see if they how it went. And
is there a reason for the not auto renewing at the school level? I mean, it can, right?
Yeah, it could. It could. I think initially, schools kind of want to try it out for a year and then see how it goes, and then potentially purchase for more classes or more for a larger group of students.
Yeah.
So it's kind of default versus giving them a free trial and then not getting anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, so it's ideal to be able to say that there's some kind of window in which you can cancel. However, if we don't hear from you, we're just going to renew, and this is how it works. And there's some maintenance fee associated with that renewal. So we're going to increase cost by 3 or 5%, something like that, as we renew you each year. When I was working at a company, they did not have the automatic renewal in, and it was a lot of work. Like 90 days ahead of time, we were sending an email and we're saying, guess what, your renewal date's coming up. And we're trying to set a meeting with them and understand the health of the client and whether or not there's more. And then we implemented the automatic renewal. And then the emails went out 90 days ahead of time and said, you will be renewing. Here's your invoice. Not necessarily, do you want to renew? It's, it's coming up for renewal. Here's your invoice. Love to sit down with you and talk through any questions you might have or any opportunity for changes that you might need. But here's what it's going to be renewing at, and here's your invoice. And it was just as plain as that. Like, here you go. And then there was a majority of those folks that just renewed with no intervention whatsoever. And then we had that smaller percentage, maybe like 30% of them, that needed some level of conversation to get them over the hump, where it was like potentially adding on, potentially worried about leaving. But we engaged with them, worked through that, and then either got the renewal or had to move on. And it changed the focus, because there, instead of trying to get a hold of all the customers and manage every customer and have every conversation, it was like, there was a big group of them that just said, cool, thanks. We will be renewing. We'll have that paid shortly. And everything went really smooth. So I just think you need a good window on the front end to make sure that you are addressing any concerns that they might have, things of that nature before the renewal timeframe.
And what would be your recommendation for the window to cancel? Like, what does that look like?
Well, usually it's like there's a 90-day window of announcement, like it's coming up. And usually there's a 30-day window to say, you need to cancel within 30 days. But if you get beyond the 30-day point, you're in process. So if you understand what I'm saying, like you announce 90 days ahead of time that I need to know in 60 days, are you going to renew or not? And then when it gets to that 29th day before the renewal, I'm sending another invoice and saying, you're in. You've crossed your threshold for canceling.
Okay.
That's basically the feel of it. I'm usually not as abrupt as like, you can't do it anymore. It's more assuming the close and moving forward with them.
That's helpful. Yeah, better than trying to get a hold of everyone, which is a struggle.
It is, and it's trying to get a hold of them, trying to make sure that they're happy. You're almost like creating this experience of, I have to ask questions, I have to really investigate it more, I have to know whether or not this is good, as opposed to just saying, hey, you're going to be renewing, just want to give you a heads up, here's the window. If you have anything you need help with, let me know. I'm happy to talk to you and support you through any of that. But not going, hey, we need to talk, we need to make sure everything's good, and let's get on a calendar so that we can make sure you have everything you need to move forward. It's just like, let's just assume we're going to renew this sucker. Right?
What about referrals?
Oh, yeah. On the referral side, I think people miss a lot of opportunities to gain referrals. Referrals should be part of the sales process, and leveraging the experience of the salesperson. So your salesperson should be asking for referrals in multiple different areas. The first place I would be asking for a referral is when someone says not interested.
Yeah.
Say, you know what, this is probably not something that I would be interested in. I would be like, well, I appreciate that. Not everybody's a good fit for this. Do you know anybody else that you would recommend that I would reach out to that might be experiencing what we've been talking about, and get a referral? Right. And then when you get to close to the end of the deal and we are wrapping things up, I like to get referrals at that point where I'm saying, you know, we've got the contract in front of them. We're talking through things about what onboarding is going to look like. And then I'm saying, you know, I'd love to, if you enjoyed this experience and you feel like we can help other people, I'm sure you know at least 3 other people that, and you just sit on the phone and ask them, who are the 3 people I should be reaching out to? And hopefully you just have a little conversation, you write down names and things, and and you get them to give you some referrals at that point. And then it moves to customer success, and customer success has onboarded them and moved them through the process, and they're very excited about where they are now. And is there anybody else you would recommend that we reach out to and let them know about our service? And then people that are very excited about your product. And I tell you, I've always said that it's very hard to create advocates of your product until there's a problem. And so when someone experiences an issue and you resolve it with this experience of wow, they become advocates of you, because they go, I could have been in a big problem. I could have had this big issue, but these folks came back and exceeded my expectations and just killed it. And now they're very excited because they know if they ever have a problem, you're going to be there to support them, and they're ready to. So at that point, there's opportunity to say, let's do a webinar. And would you be interested in doing a session at one of our conferences, or doing a webinar and sharing your experience with us in a group setting of your peers? And it's kind of like creating a lunch and learn. So there's opportunity for them to be like, oh, I would love to do that. I know a lot of people that might be interested in what you have. And now it's kind of referral through process, where they're advocating for you and telling about their experience and sharing, and then you get a list of people that are excited about that. So,
and the webinar isn't necessarily about the problem you overcame, right?
It's more about the problem, and it's just sharing the experience of how the product solved the problem. It's basically saying, I do want to introduce you guys to a company called Better Kids. Here's the experience I had before I ran into them. This is what we were trying to solve. This is how we implemented them and moved through. This is the experience we had with them, and here's the outcomes. This is a fabulous company that can help you too in the same spot. But it's your customer saying all the things and not you, which makes it much easier to digest as a prospect, because it's not a salesperson standing in front of them. It's this person that they know very well from their interactions on a regular basis with the folks in the area. They know this person, that person's got a reputation, you know. So yeah. That help?
It does. What about when people like cancel or like stop the service? Is there still an opportunity for a referral then, or?
Well, I mean, it depends on why they canceled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, if they canceled because of it didn't work, or because they did not use it as it was prescribed, then it's probably not the best time to be asking for a referral from them. You know, it's hard in that situation. Usually what I do with those is I gather all up the people that did not decide to move forward, and I do a little like close lost kind of survey with them. And it's more of saying, are you open to me doing a quick interview, talking through some of the challenges, the why, the things like that. And it's more an opportunity for learning how to become better at what you do, or learning about your sales process and what could have been done better there, or, you know, why somebody did not adopt and use the product the way it was supposed to, and how your onboarding can be better to ensure the adoption and things like that, as opposed to referrals.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. This is so helpful. Those sessions have been gold. Thank you.
No problem. One of the things we're going to be doing at the beginning of next year is launching a little community where I can do this in that setting a little bit more. So everybody who attended this, I'm probably going to send out a little email, let them know that something like that's going to be coming. And if you're interested to join, we'll let you know about it. But we'll have sessions like this. We'll do other little roundtable pieces. We'll provide all the templates and resources and things like that that you can have access to, where you can download like the onboarding guide and all the other things. But it's really just this go-to-market feel. Like how do we scale our sales and our marketing or demand generation efforts in the K-12 arena, and hopefully have this community of peers that we can be sharing ideas with and experts in different areas that'll happily support like this. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Looking forward to it.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you so much, Dan. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.